It's time for the Bookie and the Bettor Show. If you're a sports fan, now it's time to play the odds and make every bet count. New episodes post every Thursday on your favorite streaming service. Now introducing Rob Kowalski, the Bookie, and Randy Wike, the Bettor.
Welcome back to the Bookie and Bettor Show. I am your host, Rob Kowalski, joined by many friends today. To my left, Nick Schulte.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Right across from me, Randy Wike.
Howdy. The one and only.
And special guest today. I did say we were going to have some special guests. My longtime friend, senior analyst of Sportsline, Josh Nagel.
Hey, Robert, it's been a while since we've done this. Happy to be here. Thanks
Yes,
for the invite.
Absolutely. Josh actually joined us in, I guess we can call them the radio days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back at the book at Baldini's. And of course, I've been a partner on the opposite side of a set of microphones with Josh for, it's got to be over 10 years now.
Easily. Yeah, it's been a long time. But it's funny how we've done various projects here and there. And like you said, we've had that connection a long time now.
I'm really, really grateful. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Again, thanks for having me back.
So obviously, we're deep in the heart of Conference Championship Week. At the book at Baldini's, of course, we root for our Wolfpack, but best laid plans of mice and men.
Always.
Injuries, sicknesses, illnesses.
And we didn't come to play last night. I mean, we got to be honest. We're honest. I mean, they wanted the ball to win more than we did, Colorado State. They were more physical than we were. And I'm sorry. You know how I am. I'm old school. You've got to make your free throws. This team is getting worse as we get later in the season on free throw shooting. And the dumb fouls we made last night, although we did get homered on a few in that first half, but free throw shooting is going to win championships for you.
Yep.
And it cost us last night. We missed 10, some front end one-on-ones, and it hurt you.
Josh, there's probably about a week ago as the Wolfpack were on their run, I had seen a couple of brackets that said that they can get a single-digit seed. Does this change anything in your opinion here on Sunday?
Yeah, Robert, I don't believe so. I think their resume is accomplished enough to where they're probably still, we see, I mean, who knows, maybe it costs them, maybe they go to an 8-9 now instead of a 7 seed.
Right.
But as Randy alluded to me, it was a little disappointing. As we saw last year, historically, of recent note, the Wolfpack has sort of seen their trajectory tail off as we get to the end. We know last season they actually finished off here with 4 consecutive losses, including in the first 4. This time around, again, I think their fate sealed in a positive way, not having to go with the first 4 and whatnot. But it was still a bad look. As Randy mentioned last night, that Colorado State, it's funny, if you look at the box score today like it did, there's not a lot of difference. Both teams shot a high percentage. There's turnovers were a big difference. But more than anything, from the eye test you watched, Colorado State just kind of wanted that game more. I felt like, it's a 2-7. Their NCAA bubble status was a little more in jeopardy. But I just felt like, they came out determined. Of course, a little payback from when Nevada walked off, on their court a couple weeks ago with a Hail Mary at the buzzer. And to me, it was just sort of disappointing. So you wonder, is this what we're headed to again, right? You're going to, without a doubt, have some type of 7-10, 8-9 matchup in the NCAA tournament. It's going to be a tough opponent. And I just didn't like the look coming in. It would have been nice if they could at least get one in the conference tournament one of these days.
Just one.
Yeah.
Please. Just one. The bye is nice to have, but now you have nothing to show for it as we lead into tonight's games. Nick, I mean, this is odd and it just probably shows you what bookmakers think about seeding. San Diego State, a favorite over the higher seeded Utah State. San Diego State is 4.5, some places even as high as 5. New Mexico, 2.5 points better over Colorado State. Dogs here for you, or you think that we're going to probably see the favorites win out here?
I like one favorite, one dog. I think San Diego State doesn't cover it, and I think good to go.
Okay. Randy, do we see anyone other than, I don't know.
Well,
who do you see here winning the championship
I
in the
think
Mountain
I
West?
mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I really believe New Mexico has the most talent.
Right.
1 through 10. And I really like them to win this tournament. Nothing changes. I think House and Dent and Mashburn are 3 of the best players in this conference. So I think you're going to see them win. I am shocked with the 4-point spread with Utah State. And again, I've said this all year. To me, San Diego State isn't a scoring team, but they play great defense. And you got Utah State, who's really putting the ball up well right now. I'm still going to go with New Mexico to win it all. And as far as
to win the conference tournament.
Yeah, to win the Mountain West.
And didn't you have a play of the year earlier this week?
I've had 2 plays of the year the last 2 days. Air Force beat New Mexico at home bad a few weeks ago. I had said the other night, and I told all these guys, New Mexico, it's the play of the year. They're going to win by 30. It was a 15-point spread. I said, take it to bet the wife if you want, because you're going to win. They win by 36.
I'm not going to let you speak anymore. I'm going to simply stamp that by saying in the somehow randomness of me appearing when Randy's inside the book, the volumes were up on all the games. All the slot machines were chiming with their bonus games.
Yep.
All you could hear was Randy saying New Mexico for everything that you've got. So, Josh, I'm going to go ahead and just punctuate that. He did have that. Maybe we'll discuss a little bit later on as to whether or not this is going to be your streak selection for later on tonight.
And with Josh here, I'm coming out right now, and I'm going to tell you, don't be shocked if you have 3 Mountain West teams win their first round games this year, and you might have 1 or 2 go to the Sweet 16.
Why do you need to have Nagel as valid? Why does he have to validate you?
Well, because I know I'd feel a little grief from you. He's going to either say I agree or disagree. Mountain West is tougher than people really give it credit for. I'm still appalled at these East Coast services that come out and had Nevada on the bubble with 6 quad wins, as of until last week. I mean, this conference is for real. Don't be shocked. 3 teams win their first round game.
I'm still appalled that you actually are still doubling down and asking for Mr. Nagel's validation here.
Well, he's the professional of the group. You two are the professionals. I'm just a fan.
That gets trapped.
That does a lot of betting. Sorry, Denise. But Mountain West's going to shock some people.
3 Mountain West teams make it to the second round. Okay.
Yes or no, Josh?
I'll put it this way. I think the Mountain West is definitely probably stronger than we've seen it. Realized just a few years ago, we were basically a 1-bid league.
Yes.
It's like after the championship, it's like, okay, would the second team, if they didn't finish in first in the regular season, would we possibly get 2? And a couple times we didn't. It's crazy. If you watched all year, this is a really strong conference top to bottom. To the fact that a very solid Colorado State team is ranked 7th in the brackets heading into the conference tournament. So that could happen, but how bizarre was it last year where we kind of felt the same way? And basically, no Mountain West teams got past the first weekend except San Diego State, who went to the Final Four. They won the national championship game.
Yeah.
So it's like, could someone I believe Colorado State catch that kind of fire again? Sure. 3 of them to pass the first weekend, though, that's a little high. We haven't seen it yet.
Just be happy that 3 make it.
Turn out the lights, the party's
almost
over.
Happened. I almost dropped a 4-letter word.
So
I'm not going to turn this into that kind of episode.
Not to get off subject, though, but, do you think that the success of the Mountain West basketball this season, does that change anything? I know there's a lot of conference stuff, Pac-12 moves coming in the next few years. Do you think that this is good, or does it save the Mountain West?
No, I think this is a great year. You had a lot of returning kids. Like Josh mentioned, it was just a couple 3 years ago we were only getting 1 team to the dance. But you look at again the transfer portal and what this has done. No, basketball to me is a little bit different because you're talking a 12 or 14, 15 man roster. So the transfer portal to me, I think, really does change college basketball from the mid majors to a chance to be with the Big 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you look at these teams right now in the Mountain West, the transfers is what's carried some of these teams into where they're at.
Yeah. Fair enough then. So then to dovetail into another question that I had, obviously we all know what we feel. This is obviously we're recording this pre-bracket, so we don't know where everyone is seated right now. But we're taking a look at how conferences are starting to hash out. Some favorites easily rolling right on through into what's going to obviously be a championship appearance, at least for them. But Randy, start with you. Team out there, school out there that you think might make the Final Four that you didn't think about even as just a week ago.
Well, and again, going back on prior years and Randy Wike bets, it's tough to get all 4 number 1 seeds to make it to the Final Four. It just doesn't happen anymore. I do like Houston. I do like UConn, but I'm going to tell you, And I know North Carolina will probably come in at a 2 seed. I like the Tar Heels right now.
Okay.
They may be the best team in college basketball right now.
I'll take that. That's actually a good non-discussed school in general that could wing their way through. Obviously, we don't want to see them anywhere near the Massachusetts side of the bracket because then that's a UConn. We'll see. I don't think that if anyone that's paired alongside with UConn in that side of the bracket, it's been fun. But I don't think you're getting past UConn. In my opinion, Nick, maybe you've got a different.
Well, the Schulte 4000 algorithm that I might need to adjust after some of my picks as of late, but kind of like BYU Cougars.
A Final Four.
I think a Final Four appearance is possible.
What does the Book of Baldinis currently have BYU set to win the championship?
To win the championship, 66-1.
If they make I'll tell you what, they make the Final Four, I'm going to give you 4 cases of Red Bull. Book it. This is at literally no risk to you. I'm going to do that. But I really appreciate you because, honestly, I've been trying to really get you up to that second ladder, to move on with your streak. I give you credit for playing nice-sized dogs. You're not looking to lay a favorite. You're not looking to do any of that.
Hot money coming out.
If you're going to
4
go
cases.
Underdog, go big, right?
Big or go home.
That's really going big.
What factors they might have in common with like a San Diego State? For instance, I believe BYU is second in the nation in three-pointers made per game. I mean, that helps. It shows you offensively, they had to let down yesterday. But the type of team that gets hot for a week, that's really all you need.
Exactly.
4 wins to the Final Four.
Yeah.
It's not unheard of.
4 wins for 4 cases
I like it.
of Red Bull. Okay.
Wait a minute.
Book it.
Just write it down. You can write it down. Your ink's not. I see-
Now
yes.
my pick.
This is bad.
That, it wouldn't even take the BYU.
Right, so there you go. There we go. There, now it's writing there. Okay, for those of you listening, because this is horrific audio, Randy is writing. I just realized something. You're left-handed.
Most smart people are.
Josh, you
Stubtail.
you have one other possibility that might make an appearance in the Final Four that might not be seeded number
Yeah.
1.
It's kind of funny because it would sound unlikely to refer to this program as an underdog or whatnot, but Kansas, let's face it, they've sort of fallen off. I did a little look in. Every time I watch them, I go, this team should be better than they are. You look back at the start of the year, though, I believe they were preseason number 1.
Right.
Started the year 13-1. They've got wins over Connecticut, Tennessee, Kentucky. The resume's there. You look at late season, and they fell off. Of course, the Big 12 is huge depth. Houston, it's hard, you never see Kansas finish 5th or 6th in the regular season, but look at how hard top to bottom. And Baylor, so many relevant teams every night. It's a virtual coin toss, especially when you're on the road. But then, of course, late in the year, their top 2 scorers are out. Hunter Dickinson, the huge transfer from Michigan, their best player, and they held him out precautionary. So that's why they actually come into the tournament off blowout losses to Houston the other night to Cincinnati. But they basically had nobody. So I feel like, as sort of a secondary thought as a blue blood goes, they're probably going to be on 4. Some people are saying they don't even deserve that, maybe a 5 line. But if you look at that, if they happen, you look at who's up top and see who's in the 1 and 2 hole, they have a fairly favorable path. I think Kansas could be there in a heartbeat. I think they could put it together and have the talent to get to another Final Four.
I actually didn't check, but Josh, did you see if Dickerson's going to be healthy to make it next week, or is he done?
No, from what I heard, they were very hopeful that he plays. It was just sat out the Big 12 tournament for precautionary. I said for who Kansas had the other night, they didn't really show up. That's not a bad thing. They have 8 full days to get their roster healthy before they take the court. So I was thinking, when you get those futures, once the bracket's announced and they refresh the futures odds, you probably get a decent price on Kansas.
And in the Adams kid, I think had a bad night too the other night. He really the only real true scorer they had.
And they sort of mailed it in early. If you saw that, they were a little bit lifeless, but that wasn't entirely. And Cincinnati needed it more anyway.
And of course, if we just take a look right now of current odds at the Book of Baldinis with the Big 12 Conference reaching their semifinals, Houston, obviously, no surprise there, a massive 10-point favorite over Texas Tech. Baylor and Iowa State just pretty much almost pick them. Iowa State a tiny 1-point favorite right now. Totals 132 and 134. Makes total lot of sense there. Obviously, this looks like Houston's conference to win for fun, irregardless, even if they play Baylor or if they play Iowa State. I think Houston will probably come 5.5, maybe even 6. I might even come lighter than that, but we'll take a look and see as these games play themselves out into the weekend. Speaking of what we looked at to move from the college basketball tournaments to what Randy was ruining at the conclusion of the Super Bowl and as a dearth of pro football talk, but no, Randy, I'm going to keep trotting it out as many times as I can, and it's definitely worth mentioning in our episode today. The thought that just last year that running backs were saying, hey, what about us? Where are we going to, why are we not being paid attention to? We talked about this, Josh, last week, how the game is, moving on to a more of a pass-centric kind of a league. And you're not a full-service omni-attack type of a running back, then you're probably not going to make much scratch. But surprise, surprise, or maybe not. All of these running backs that were free agents ended up with teams probably like 48 hours in. What I wanted to do was actually take a quick look at, obviously, with free agency off and running, teams are now really, really hot and on the move to pick up somebody new and improve their odds to forget about making the playoffs. How about just, doing better than they did last year? But of course, winning more games is always number one. So dozens of extensions, short-term contracts, multi-year signings, of course, the blockbuster mega deal for Kirk Cousins, who's now with Atlanta. Baker Mayfield, he's a $100 millionaire. He's going back to Tampa. And of course, Christian Wilkins, not to ignore those that are non-offense players. He gets a mega contract to go to Vegas. So many more that have happened over the time from Monday when free agencies began to where we are today. I want to take a look, Josh, at first. The biggest impact move that you think has happened to a team so far in the NFL, where let's take the first step. Will they be better this year than they were last year because of the move that they made? Is there a team out there that made a signing or a trade that you feel have made them better today than they were last season?
Sure, Robert. And one thing I find interesting this free agency period so far, there's been a lot of early moves, more than we usually see. And
tons.
The sort of revolving door. When it's kind of interesting to see how these high-profile players, different landing spots, but particularly like the running back position. I find it curious because you hear so much dialogue about how running back, they never want to pay for it because, they're just all interchangeable. I'm not sure I ever bought into that to begin with, but look at how they've landed. So to answer your question, I actually think the Eagles landing Saquon Barkley was huge. And what they showed last year, the Eagles were believed to be a committee-type team, but they weren't. They went with DeAndre Swift when he sort of separated from the pack, but still, he had a somewhat limited ceiling. The Giants didn't want to pay Saquon. I mean, last year they franchised him, and then he said, okay, I'll just test the market. And he got what for running backs a good deal, but for other positions would seem modest. But I've never believed the whole running backs are interchangeable thing. I think sort of kind of a myth, and I would just point, did the Niners get better with Christian McCaffrey? Mm-hmm. Like, what were the Titans without Derrick Henry the last 6 years when he missed games or was out injured?
Yeah.
And I think they're starting to see the value, but you see everything come around. And what I think is interesting, people forget about this, but I'd say around 10 years ago, it was believed that quarterback was expendable. Remember, they never really paid one. So if you had the top of the line, they paid left tackle and corner, and that was it. Oh, quarterback wants more than like 10 minutes, forget it. Well, we can draft a better one. That's how they feel about running backs now, right? The Mahomes, Josh Allen's come along, and they realize, actually, these guys are hard to find. Let's wrap them up. But with running backs, I do think the day's coming where they'll get paid a little more market value because I think just like anything else, there's separation at the elite level versus the rest of the pack.
And I think you hit on a good point there. I mean, you look at Chris McCaffrey and everything he did for the Niners last season, and I think everybody else in the league is seeing that and like, hey, yeah, maybe there is a little more value here than we're seeing. So,
Nick, Aaron Donald announced his retirement today from the LA Rams and from football in general. How many games? I'm not going to ask you is San Francisco going to win their division. The question is, by how many games will they win their division by?
3.
That takes balls. 2.5 then.
2.5.
I wanted to ask you this, Randy. If you're taking a look at running, because the dearth was in running backs, were they going to get any kind of fair value? Derrick Henry is now a Raven.
Well, I mean, the Ravens now actually have a quarterback that can complete a pass in the playoffs with Derrick Henry. So I just had to throw that in there.
Derrick Henry is now a Raven. We have DeAndre Swift, as Josh mentioned. He's no longer an Eagle now. He's a Bear. And then, of course, Saquon Barkley to the Eagles. Which of those do you think is the most impactful among those three?
By far, Barkley was a pick 'em. And again, the rich got richer. I think, again, Philadelphia is one of the higher echelon teams. The move I'm having a hard time understanding is the Packers. So the Packers get rid of Jones,
Yep.
who I really like. Granted, he's 30 years old. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy, the last 7 games of last year, the last 5 in the playoff games,
He turned it on.
was unbelievable. Now, today, the Packers signed A.J. Dillon. So you've got a premier running back you just picked up, and you're still going to and I don't know, I didn't see what Dillon's getting, but what was wrong with Jones in that?
Well, probably his injury history, Randy. And it's one of those things, I think you're right. I mean, he was really solid, but as you know, if you follow the team, also frustrating that he couldn't really stay on the field. What I feel like Josh Jacobs is, essentially, they're very similar to the same player, except he's 45 years younger without the injury history. And A.J. Dillon, for some reason, the Packers really like him. Apparently, he's good in pass protection. They like him in short yardage, but apparently a great teammate because for whatever reason, they've always shown some loyalty to him. But to your point, but also Aaron Jones might go back to where it's also probably more split shares of the snaps or whatnot that he would have liked. He gets to land in Minnesota as the main guy, and if he does have juice left, which I believe he does, he's clearly their lead back. So I think he landed on his feet pretty well also.
Yes, he did. And so I actually would like to bring this. Let's talk a little bit more about this division, the NFC North. When we're taking a look at odds, so now I want to go ahead and start to focus on this subject from a betting perspective. If we're taking a look at odds to win the NFC North, we're probably not even talking about, and I don't know why, but obviously we know that the Detroit Lions are much the best. However, Packers, Bears, okay, let's sit on that for a little bit, and the Vikings. But so let's go with the Vikings first, because it looks like even though Jones has landed there and they still have Jefferson, they don't have a quarterback.
For now.
They don't have a quarterback, right? And as a matter of fact, just earlier this morning, they announced that they made a trade with the Texans to start to move themselves up in the first round.
You know Sam Darnold?
Can have fun with that. I mean, you can go ahead and let me know where he ranks among the quarterbacks. I'll say 18th at best.
Pretty high.
So if we look at the odds to win the NFC North, Randy, Vikings obviously are in rebuild mode. They're looking for continuous moves to move up into the draft. It looks like they're positioning themselves. So now we're going to see 4 quarterbacks possibly in the top 5 if Minnesota continues to move the way they do.
But again, the question being, a lot of these teams that are, I think still the top 3 teams are going to take quarterbacks in the draft. So for these teams, and we'll throw the Raiders in there too, Vikings, you're going to have to jump somebody. You're going to have to trade 2 or 3 teams to get up there in the draft.
Minnesota's already showing that they're very interested in doing that.
I mean, that's going to be a big thing as we get really close to the draft. What are they going to do on draft day? Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you right now, I really believe the Packers are the team to beat now. I really thought they came on. This team, I think now, they have that running back again. They always had, the talent at the quarterback position. Again, wasn't he behind Aaron Rodgers? But I think this is the team to watch out for.
So
I would agree with that.
So at plus 210, so to go over the odds at the Book of Baldini's, the NFC North, Lions plus 135, the Packers plus 210, the Bears plus 375, and the Vikings at, let's call it 7 at this point to win the division. And
don't forget, the Packers. How art thou, Romeo? Going to be a sensation again next year. Nevada kid, I believe,
as
too.
in Dobbs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Took me about 2.5 seconds to realize that we're
Shakespeare.
Yeah, we're over here honking the
You
horn.
probably thought, boy, he's really came up in the world.
Josh, is there I want to come back and circle back to the Bears, where I think that this is still, Josh, I don't know. This should be Fields' team. And the way they're building what is surrounding him right now is actually pretty exciting. And all right, we're talking about, the Lions obviously are, obviously number 1 in terms of odds to win the division. And then the Packers, we're talking about the Packers leapfrogging them. What about the Bears? I mean, they've made some moves here. Of course, we talked about who they've added. Just yesterday, Keenan Allen just became a Chicago Bear for a 4th round pick. I don't know, it seems kind of inexpensive. right? Yeah, he's 32, maybe injury prone, but
Still might have 1 or 2 good seasons left.
I mean, he's got some real people to throw to. He's got Swift in the back. I mean, it's probably an improvement. Or am I just blowing smoke and we're not going to see him as the starting quarterback in Chicago anyway?
It's funny, Robert. I agree with you, and yet I still don't believe. I think they're starting to build to draft, which is too bad. Like, and you've heard of potential landing spots for Fields. At first, Atlanta was highly rumored that would have been a great fit.
Yes.
Now you're hearing about Las Vegas. Why not?
I love
they don't have a quarterback either.
Yes.
There's some, I think, beautiful landing spots for Fields, who I think we'll see thrive. But as you mentioned, if I'm in a decision-making position with the Bears, I want to keep him to begin with. Why not? You got that top pick. You can get Marvin Harrison or whoever. Like you mentioned, I do believe. I mean, they got Keenan Allen for free. That was a great trade, and they're building around the core center there. But I think that's with in mind that Fields' days are behind him. It's just a bizarre dynamic because you just drafted him a couple years ago and he's shown flashes, and do you believe in him or do you not? But I felt like what the Bears did as a whole last year earned him that spot. I mean, I felt like for sure, why not? Because you could regret it, because I'm not sure anyone in the draft is an instant game changer either. I think Fields and padding around him is the better way to go for sure.
This is excellent, Nick.
Offensive line. They need to build an offensive line. If you can't block, it doesn't matter if you have a Keenan Allen or even a Justin Jefferson. You need time in the pocket.
I'm barely going to talk about who my favorites are, but clearly, as the New York Giants have been purged pretty severely, as a fan of them growing up at this point, it really doesn't matter who they take it. They're not going to even finish 500. But I thought that I saw, talking about protection, I think I saw Alt going to them in the first round. I don't even care anymore, to be honest. You keep drafting Duke quarterbacks. This is what you're going to get.
Eli Manning is coming out of retirement.
You'd be better off.
Yeah.
So,
really quick though, I'm curious with Kelsey retiring from the Eagles, do they move away from the tush push, or will Hurts be under center for that, or are they going to swap out for maybe one of their new guys?
I don't think they're ever going to let go of that play.
Okay, well, do you think they could run it effectively without that head guy in the middle anymore?
No.
Okay, well, be interesting to see. So.
No. You've completely changed the way the game is played.
But I mean, and Josh, I had a question, and I'm glad you're here today. What do you think that Chicago's going to keep Fields?
No, actually, I think they're probably trying to deal him. I mean, we'll see how things pan out, of course, with the next few days. But I just mean for instance, the Keenan Allen trade. I don't think they do that. Yeah, I think they're trying to build for a new quarterback. But again, I mean, I think it's a poor move or whatever. But they've had this pick for the longest time, and that was the key dialogue, whatever, heading into the offseason. I just felt like, without coming right out and saying it, it looked as if the Bears were turning the page from Justin Fields based on all the gradual steps they made. I just think it's unfortunate. I think it's a mistake, but I think one of the teams out there in need of help should grab him. I think the Raiders should swing a deal. Because of that, they have a little bit of leverage, right? I mean, I think if it's clear that the Bears are kind of tipping their hand, it probably wouldn't take all that much to get him. And sort of like the Bears, stole Keelan, they could probably get Fields for, mid-draft pick.
Yes.
What were the Raiders thinking?
With what?
Minshew.
Yeah, believe me, I agree with you. I mean, you have Minshew and Aiden O'Connell on your roster. That is a battle for the backup spot in my mind. I'm seriously,
it's a pair of bees. Is all you got.
Or is that a third string?
What's funny too is everyone falls in love with Minshew anywhere he goes because he has like 1 or 2 pop games early. Oh, this guy's great. Yeah. And everywhere, there's a reason why he is sort of a career backup. He kind of flames out. Last year at the Colts, remember that winner-take-all game at home against the Texans. All they had to do was beat a somewhat comparable team on their home turf to get into the playoffs. He played poorly. That's why they ran down every down in the second half because Minshew couldn't complete a pass. So he's historically kind of fool's gold, but plays just well enough because someone always wants to give him another shot.
Yep. Then, Josh, with all the moves that we've seen since Monday, signings, trades, whatnot, any moves that happen to teams, let me preface this by saying we could count on one thing's for sure. With the moves that happened with one particular franchise, at least this year, the Chargers won't have to break any hearts. We know that they're not going to be good this year, right? They're finished. Eckler's gone. Allen's gone. Matter of fact, I think their top wide receivers. I think they're just going to have Disley as their tight end now.
Don't count out Harbaugh. Never know what that.
So basically, we're going to see the LA Wolverines, is what you're saying.
All I'm saying is, if you're a Niners fan from 1995 to 2008-9, that you never really saw anything, and you never really had any expectations. All of a sudden, this guy comes along, and we're making NFC championship 4 years in a row with a team that didn't really have any standouts. So
I'll give this to you right now. With the moves that we see, I'll set the season win total for the Chargers. 8.5.
I'll take the under on that one.
I just said don't count them out, and you're going under.
But I think they might be a late favorite or something, maybe get in the playoffs.
Josh, any moves that you've seen that you think would vault a team to challenge for the division?
Well, I put it this way, of the high profile, by the way, I'm just thinking about that Harbaugh stuff because that's fascinating. But keep in mind, he did take the 49ers. He took a 4-1 team to the NFC Championship in 1 year. Yeah. I think he knows what he's doing, getting rid of the soft, older receivers. Yep. He's going to probably draft Blake Corum, in the backfield to replace Eckler.
Of course.
But they will compete. 8.5 is a good number, I believe. But to answer your question, it's funny, of all the stuff we've seen so far, and we've talked beforehand about what a rainbow shines on Kirk Cousins, but he is a difference maker for them. I mean, with those kind of weapons that they have, they finally they changed schemes. Yes. They got rid of the coach who was apparently couldn't plan very well for the personnel. And with the amount of weapons they have, they were reasonably solid on defense. I mean, Kirk Cousins in that division, he helps you get to the playoffs, despite what ceiling he might have. He's a factor in that division.
100%.
So there you go. And then early on, I'll probably go ahead and just crown Atlanta as the favorites to win the NFC South. And then following them would go the Tampa Bay Bucks, New Orleans Saints, and then Carolina Panthers, which they got
Are they still in the NFL?
Quite a bit of work to do as a professional sports franchise.
I think
Randy
they were going
Wike.
to Division I.
You know what's funny about the Panthers? I think they've sort of become the Oakland A's of the NFL. They draft this good talent, but wait, as soon as they start to get rid of them. They get rid of them before they become true stars. Like get rid of McCaffrey, DJ Moore, now Brian Burns. No, we can't have an elite defender on our hands.
No,
so they dump them immediately and then just start over again. It's almost comical because I rooted for them last year just because of that. I was like, it was so tough to watch because they were so bad. But yeah, there wasn't much to root for. I mean, they're getting worst offense like you've ever seen. I mean, it was pretty. Poor level of play for sure. And like you said, not sure they're doing themselves a bunch of favors now in the offseason.
Well, and you look at this team, and I always believe it starts with the ownership. You got an owner throwing a beer on a fan, and I know I take this to heart. You got an owner that really shouldn't be an owner again in the NFL that does dumb things, and they wonder why they make these stupid trades. Mm-hmm. You start at the top. Get new people in there.
Right.
Well, all right. I'm going to go ahead and just put a beautiful bow on this incredible episode by seeing if our contestants here can ladder up at the Book of Baldini's. Randy, you have done well. Of course, you do have to start over after picking Belmont last week. They didn't quite come close.
No.
Nick, of course, we talked about you taking your shots. Portland, not so good. They were good about until the midway through the third quarter, and then they said, oh, wait, we're the Trailblazers.
Lack of talent, yeah.
And just got run out the door. So what we're doing here, Josh, is we are seeing just how strong the psyche of Randy and Nick are by having them make a single bet. As for those listening at home, a piece of paper. It's colored green. It's rectangular, and Nick is showing that it is a $20 bill. Randy is digging into his pocket. I'm not sure if he's going to take anything out.
I've got like 46 bets in my pocket.
He's got 46
Just show the
bets,
camera what your wallet.
I'm not going to do
This
that.
is what happens when you don't use an app.
I may have to
Just saying.
stand up to even get it out.
So, okay, we're going to scratch that from the record. We're not going to talk about what you need to do to stand. And what we're doing here is we're going to see just how far they can climb a streak. So Randy's done well. Nick has been taking some shots. So the rules are as follows. And please, if you have something that you like for this weekend, okay, there is two $20 bills out on the table.
And several bets.
And several bets. Yes, this wallet does look kind of full. There's a lot of paper in there. So ode to the old school of making bets right over the counter, which we still, of course, will always offer at the Book of Baldini's.
Bye.
So, as we remember, point spreads, perfectly fine. Betting on totals, perfectly fine. Betting on a favorite up to minus 150 is fine. Betting on a dog at any price is even better. gentlemen, start your engines all over again. What's it going to be? Nick, go ahead and start us off. What are you going to tell our listeners at home and on YouTube?
You're not taking the Portland Trailblazers.
No, I moved on from that pick. I actually had to ask for some advice since, I seem to be on a streak as of late. I like Western Kentucky get -6 over Middle Tennessee State.
Okay. So the Hilltoppers laying 6. I'm going to go ahead and confirm that as I go ahead and move on to Randy's selection. Randy, who are you going to take here?
Well,
to start off your ladder.
I really like Marquette today, but I'm sticking with what I've mentioned on this show in the last 2 or 3 shows. The New Mexico Lobos are my play today.
You did actually like them quite a bit, and so you're going to stick with them again. New Mexico. Bring myself down the menu. 2.5 is what you're going to lay over the Rams. That game is far, far later tonight.
I won't be awake, by the way, to watch that. So
that's okay. That's perfectly
you guys
fine.
Might have to text me.
Many pro
Us
bettor
old people need our
don't
rest.
even watch a single bounce. All they care
Jalen
about-
House goes off tonight. He had a great game last night. He goes off tonight.
Randy's taking New Mexico 2.5. Nick Schulte, the Western Kentucky, which actually tips off very shortly. You're laying
Making
6.
sure we can get that in time.
Josh, be absolutely glorious to end the show with a selection to see if you can go ahead and bring our listeners home with. Who do you like this weekend?
Sure thing, but before that, real quick, explain what's going on. Is this like a progressive jackpot? I mean, they have picks on separate games. So say they both win, the pot stays the same.
Oh, no,
if he
that's
wins,
correct.
he loses, he takes
Right.
the pot. That's
to review.
It's kind of like a progressive.
They're
gotcha.
simply carrying their bet over, so they're going to make a straight bet here. Should they win, we're going to take their stake and all of their winnings and move on, rolling it completely over into their pick next week. And it continues on. So actually,
I had 2 good weeks.
Yeah, Randy's selection on Belmont was for a nice little chunk.
Right.
But no,
Mathematically speaking, I should win this week. So
mathematically, you are
The
absolutely
third
due.
time's the charm. Is that what that?
third or fourth, I think.
Oh, is it the 4th? Okay.
Anyhow, so for my pick of the night, though, and I hate to go against Randy here, but I feel like Colorado State, especially the way they looked last night, I feel like they're one of those teams that, sort of needed that late burst. They had a couple letdowns to where, they need to get off the bubble, but I think they go to the title game.
Okay, I'm
they
changing
could
my
win
pick
it.
then.
And folks, that's why the job of a bookie is so great. I didn't even have to say a single word. I've got the both of them against each other. I just made myself a nice, tidy little commission.
Can
It's
I
that
change
easy.
my pick?
No, you can't.
Oh, okay.
It's locked in.
And that's our show for today. Thank you so much, Josh Nagel. Where can people that are listening in and watching, where can they find you online to get all your great information as the senior analyst?
Sure. Again, Robert, thanks again for having me. But you go to sportsline.com, you'll find material for myself. But a lot of experts, it's the best deal around here. $10 a month for a full access subscription. Pays for itself. We have promo codes all the time you can get for half that or less. If you really don't want to pay a nickel at all, go to our Early Edge podcast family. It's a branch of Sportsline. We have shows dedicated to individual sports every single day. Never a charge. You can get there. Our experts give out picks, so check either of those out. We'd appreciate it.
Early Edge is available anywhere that you get your podcast, whether it's on Spotify or Apple or anywhere that you get them. Go ahead and find Josh there. Really, really great information. I'm so grateful that you came and joined us today.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.
Once again,
Thank you.
if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, don't forget to like and subscribe us online. Thank you so much again for joining us. I'm your host once again, Robert Kowalski, for Randy Wike, for Nick Schulte, and
Thanks,
for
man.
our great special guest, Josh Nagel. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Have a
Josh.
great weekend, everyone.
Turn out the
There it
lights, the party's over.
Thank you for listening to the Bookie and the Bettor Show. New episodes post every Thursday on your favorite streaming service.